put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning.
Good morning, viewers, and welcome to the Tobago Updates morning show, coming to you here live from the Port Mall in Scarborough, Tobago. As we continue to give God thanks for life, I am Julian Skeet.
And I am Adana Kumbi. This is the day that the Lord has made, and we will rejoice and be glad in it. Yes, it's Monday, 25th March 2024. I'm telling you, the first quarter of the year is almost over. What goals have you set for yourself, and how far are you where they are concerned? We are so happy to always be coming to you every morning with the morning show here on Tobago Updates, as we bring you information relating to things happening in and around the Tobago. Julian, how was your weekend? What's up? What's happening in your neck of the woods?
Beautiful, beautiful weekend indeed. Beautiful, beautiful. You know, you always gotta give thanks, most definitely. And in particular, I can't complain at all.
Right,
I can't complain at all, Adana. It's been quite good, and you know, it's already kind of a flash for me to recognize that, wow, it's Easter.
That's right.
it's Easter next week, and the reality came to me in church yesterday, Palm Sunday.
Yes, I'm telling you.
and then you recognize to yourself immediately, oh, the year is running that quickly indeed. But quite grateful at that. Opportunities to continue to interact, to continue to engage friends and family and so on. And you know, weekends tend to be, you know, you're encouraged for that kind of time out.
That's right.
Take a breather and let's come at it again.
That's right.
So certainly happy for that as well.
That's right. That's right. Of course, you know, as Julian said, we're heading on into Easter there. And, you know, what a time, you know, if we could take some time to reflect on the goodness of God, the fact that he, you know, Jesus Christ died and resurrected for our sins. And, you know, just spend some time giving him thanks for where we are in life right now. It could have been a million times worse than it is right now. So let's forget about the things that are troubling us, and let us give God thanks for the things that we are enjoying indeed. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to head on over right now to the news in 90 seconds with Biana.
Thank you, Julian and Adana. Here is your news in 90 seconds for Monday, March 25th, 2024. PNM Tobago Council leader Ansel Dennis claimed that the Farley Augustine-led administration is trying to tarnish his reputation to win the next THA election. In a video posted to social media, Dennis stated that the current administration is using smear tactics and propaganda utilizing URP workers. He referenced a video of a URP worker criticizing the use of pitch pine instead of teak at the Buku Boardwalk, which Dennis labeled as false propaganda. Dennis, former assemblyman for Buku Mount Pleasant until the PNM's 2021 defeat, defended the boardwalk's material choice as a pandemic-related necessity and maintained that the proper maintenance would have prolonged its lifespan. Up next, Opposition Senator Wade Marks, speaking at a press conference, highlighted key issues affecting the nation, such as democratic principles, property tax, economic diversification, and impending retrenchment at WASA. Mark underscored the nation is facing challenges such as the inability to produce 1 million tons of methanol for export and a decline in natural gas production, which is impacting revenue and foreign exchange. He criticized the government's proposed property tax as being perceived as a burden on residential homeowners and called for unity to confront these challenges. And finally, as the investigations into the Strategic Service Agency continues under Brigadier Anthony Phillips Spencer, 12 employees have been dismissed, some failing polygraph tests. However, at least 5 of these individuals, including Joanne Daniel, were from the Cyber Defense and Cyber Operations Unit. Additionally, Pastor Ian Brown's son, self-proclaimed as a SSS spy, was also part of the unit, leading to Brown's removal of the SRP status by the TTPS. Initially, 3 murders were linked to the SSA probe, but the investigations have expanded to include additional deaths, including that of a reputed gangster. And that was your news in 90 seconds.
Thank you very much there, Biana, certainly giving us those highlights, some would say, as we head on into this period, as we head on up to Easter of 2024. And I trust that we're taking that time out, because I think we're also at the same time celebrating Adana. We're in that holy, that Ramadan period as well. And we're really praying and hoping as best as possible that things continue to align for the better, the growth and development of this island, and most certainly that we continue to be spirit-filled in this period and beyond. And for those of us, I like to make it clear, you don't have to be going to church ultimately to be the best or to be focused on God and so on. I really want within your homes, within your families and your spaces that you continue, I like to say in this Tobago space, to relate to what you know. Because the average Tobagonian has grown up with that kind of foundation that guides us, even if we may not always follow it as we should. But we have grown up and we understand the foundation. Right. And let's try to make sure, even if some of us may have strayed and we are yet to return, ensure that our children also have the benefit of that kind of foundation going forward. All right, viewers, at this point, we're heading on into our birthday shout-outs. Birthday shout-outs here on Tobago Updates.
And on screen is our very own Kristen Salandi. Yes, Kristen Salandi is celebrating her birthday today. And you might know her from Tobago Updates. Yes, she's one of our news anchors. Yes, and we want to say happy birthday to you, Kristen. We do hope that you have a wonderful birthday, even as we head on into Easter. We know that the celebrations are going to be long and expansive. So we wish you the very best and God's blessings upon your life.
And I want to definitely send a shout out to Kristen Salandi as well. I've known Kristen from high school days with my cousins and family and so on. Amazing young lady, continuing to make strides. I want to wish you the very, very best, Kristen Salandi. All right, and we have on screen Dion Williams. We're sending birthday shout outs going out to Dion Williams, wishing you continued blessings coming from the entire Tobago Updates family.
And next, it's the man, Karen Cowan. He is celebrating his birthday today. And we want to say happy birthday to you, Karen, a young man there, making his mark in the architectural world and the development world in terms of building development. And we just want to say happy birthday to you. We want to say congratulations. And we want to pray God's continued blessings upon your life as you continue to make strides in your endeavors. We pray the very best for you. Do have a wonderful, wonderful birthday.
Birthday blessings going out to you, Karen Cowan. All right, and for those of you, following the calendar any at all, today is Monday, the 25th of March, 2024. And yes, for most, if not all of our children, it's the start of the Easter vacation. And we want to do a quick highlight of some of the happenings out there. Because we know that today, in fact, is the start of several camps and initiatives and activities happening on the outside. And we want to say kudos and congratulations to all those organizers. And we're going to pull up some very quickly there in terms of reminding those of you. We got the Easter Nutrition Camp, and that's happening out at Bishop's High School. And that's for ages 3 to 12. And that takes place, it's going to be nutrition, arts, sports, and adventure. Certainly feel free to reach out to the organizers, 480-5457, something for your child to do. Yes, and we're heading straight on over. There's also Easter Fundamentals Motor Skills Sports Camp, ages 7 to 14 years, boys and girls. And that's taking place at the Y, down there at the YMCA. Over this period, we want to say again, kudos and congratulations. Something to do, Adana. Something to do in the mix.
Of course. There's a need, because you're looking at where you're going to keep the children.
Definitely.
And of course, it's something that is going to, engage them in all types of arts and sports and culture and whatever the case might be. So we have the Christ Kids. Is Christ or Chris? Christ Kids Club.
Yes.
Christ Kids Club. They're also having their Easter camp there beginning from today, March 27th, from 8:30 this morning. And it's free, absolutely free. Some of these have price tags, minimal.
Yes.
And some of them are free. So we're encouraging you to carry the kids out there just in case you're looking for something for your children to do.
And they have certainly been required to register beforehand.
Yes.
Kudos going out there. And also happening, and I know there's much more, but we just pulled out about 4. There's also the Easter Spanish Spanish Expo that takes place, and this is happening. This is also starting today, giving our students an opportunity, and this is the School of Foreign Language Tobago. So we certainly want to take the opportunity to say congratulations to all those hosting camps in and around Tobago to continue to engage our students, because even while we're on Easter vacation, Adana, you and I still have to work. All right. So certainly we got to find ways to engage our students positively. And I've got a quick video there, and I wanted to pause to send congratulations to a very good friend of mine, continuing to do exceptional and outstanding work. And this is Delissa's Dance Agency. I had the opportunity yesterday to be able to attend once again this initiative that she has been having for some time. And I've been there from as early as the Black Rock days at the Cats and Jammers facility. And I got a sneak peek here. This is the closing presentation that took place. Delissa's Dance Agency, known more commonly to some as DDA. And it was amazing, Adana, to see the entire presentation, this entire concert production in terms of the babies you see in the mix. You've got the juniors, you have the seniors, and of course the focal point in the middle, lady in her shades, the lead, the visionary and founder, Delissa herself, known to some as Delissa Williams or Chauvel Williams, certainly doing an amazing job indeed. And I want to take the opportunity this morning to extend sincere congratulations, and definitely keep up that great work that you continue to do in the performing arts. Indeed, we look forward to even greater contributions as you continue. Well done, DDA, Delissa's Dance Agency.
All right, so of course we're gonna have conversations this morning in studio with our guests, and we're gonna let you know who we're speaking to and what we're speaking about. This morning we start off our conversations with Braden Roberts, and he's the Tobago officer of the Trinidad and Tobago United Teachers Association tutor, and we're talking about tutor on the SEA and the curriculum. Yes, a very important conversation. We also speak with Rodale Kirk. He is the superintendent of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. TTPS bringing their crime update, weekly crime update here at the Tobago Updates television, as well as safety tips during the school vacation. Yes, it's very important. And then we round the conversations with Leroy George. Leroy George is a cast member of the Tobago Drama Guild, and we'll be talking about Tobago Drama Guild Blood Money. It's a drama that's coming off there, and so you want to hear what is happening. So we invite you, of course, to continue to stay with us as we bring these conversations to you and the information that comes with it. And while you stay, of course, we ask you to invite somebody and share the live. Share the live. Share the live. We'll be back.
You can now get whatever you need whenever you need it anywhere in Tobago with Tobago. Your meals, medication, groceries, and shopping all delivered directly to you. No more hassle, no more stress. Get the Tobago app today on Google Play or Apple App Store.
That's TAPPOGO, and let us deliver to you.
Check our website at www.tapogo.app or call the experts at 494-TOGO and 484-4746. Tobago. Relax. We will get it to you. Tobago's at your service.
Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning.
Good morning, viewers, and welcome back to the Tobago Updates morning show, coming to you here live from the Port Mall in Scarborough, Tobago. We just at about 7:12 a.m. this morning, and we are happy to welcome on set with us here in studio Braden Roberts, a Tobago officer of tutor. And this morning we're speaking tutors' feedback on C, and we're looking at the curriculum as well. Good morning to you and welcome.
Good morning. It's always a pleasure to be on the program.
All right. Out and about this Monday morning, but that's nothing strange to you as a teacher.
Yes.
No matter the circumstances. As we welcome you here this morning, we just had the recently concluded C examinations. Tell us about the feedback from tutor in terms of the conduct, the management, and so on. What are your feelings generally as it relates to our students that just participated in the C examination?
Right. So first of all, I would want to trust that the students would have done their best under the circumstances. I know that both the division and the ministry, they had that caution on the Wednesday before to ensure that the schools are in good order. We would have seen the recent actions of bomb threats more so in Trinidad. So I believe that's one of the main reasons. While the information wasn't given, no confirmation wasn't given from the division or the ministry, I believe that's one of the main reasons for ensuring that they closed on Wednesday to do the double checking and so on. We did not get any reports of any actions of misconduct or so on the day, so I am of the belief that all would have went well, at least in Tobago.
All right, excellent. What is your general, based on your engagement, obviously, with parents and looking at our broader education system out there, in relation to what we describe as the pressures of the C examination at this very young age? And as a teacher yourself, we know all too well when we are now at this level and this age, that C is really only that stepping stone in the very beginning. What are the thoughts of tutor as it relates to future prospects and this examination in itself as a determining factor for the movement of our students from primary into secondary school places?
Right. So we have SEA as an item that we set in our minds that it is something that our children have to prepare for. So from standard 1, standard 2, we are getting ready for an SEA exam, but there's life before and after SEA. And even with the parents, my concern really is we have that attention where we drill those students from about 2 or 3 months before the exam, and then we let them go. So when they get to secondary school, where we believe the job is over, as parents in the main, and you realize they're not coping so well in Form 1, Form 2, Form 3, despite getting either 80% or 70% in the exam. We don't have the education where it is natural to the child. We have, anybody could drill for an exam and do well on the day. Between a month, 2 months after, you want to know how is the same child. And especially when we have the July-August break, we are not even practicing the work. There is that challenge in Form 1. So if we don't change the way in which we administer the curriculum, these high-stakes exams would just be a pressure point where we put our children under this particular circumstance, where our teachers also, the parents, we are all in this heightened anxiety and the emotions are high and so on unnecessarily. True learning to me is not being maximized the way in which SCA is being administered.
What does tutor see as a possible alternative, perhaps down the road, or where discussions need to take place for kind of transitioning out of this pressure point? And I see that some changes have also been made where we are no longer focused on the announcement of what might be the top student or so. What's also the take of tutor on that?
Well, announcing the top student may be the public thing, but internally they're still looking to see which school would have done the best, and so on. We have that competition, and that's why for me teachers need to be level-headed and have that foundation where we are building these students for society. So my effort should be towards getting them to secondary school with their best potential, and then to society, and not so much which school is the top school, because we also see where parents would then rush to carry the child to whether I Signal Hill or see if they hear a child come in the top 10, and I believe that school have the answer. It's much more than that. To answer the question about what needs to happen, there needs to be a relationship between primary school and secondary school. There isn't currently. Up to primary school, you do SC, and we have about 8 secondary schools that have their curriculum. So whether your child gets 40%, 30%, 75%, 80%, 90%, is the same curriculum. So we don't have secondary schools that cater to the child that is getting 30%, 35%. They get to Form 1 and they have to cope. We also have the July, August period where, again, it's a downtime where they're not practicing their work. So it's really tough on some of these students when they get to Form 1. And then you're meeting all these different persons with their different upbringing and so on. So the inclination to the indiscipline and so on, competing with their ability to focus at school. So with the change in the curriculum and making the curriculum more meaningful, we should have some secondary schools if we notice that this group of students have a challenge with numeracy or with literacy. There is a program in that particular school. So when the child gets 30% or 40%, this school best fits the need for this particular child. We don't have that. We just have secondary schools, and then you go on. So whether I go to Bishops or to Speyside, there is a secondary school curriculum that must be fulfilled.
All right. And I know one of the things that the Division of Education, well, let me first commend the Ministry of Education, because based on what you're saying, it would appear that the decision not to do it publicly at the level of the nation, so to speak, or even at the level of Tobago, has led perhaps to a little more healthy competition within the school environment. Because, of course, competition is a natural part of life. But more than that, you also alluded to the need for that additional programming support. I know when we would have had the division on, the Division of Education spoke to, I think it is Project Impact, as one of the strategies for reaching out. Would you say that there's room for growth in terms of building out that program in such a way that it can really reach, or you don't see it as meeting the broader objective?
In its current format, it won't meet the objective. But it's not to just scrap something that's not working.
Right. How do you see it improving?
Right. So as it is now, we have a program regardless of where the children's ability is. So we're teaching content still. We're teaching a program and not so much the children. If we have a program where the children and the teachers are different, so we have different teachers teaching these varying children, the teachers would need to take time to understand the child. So if we have a program where we have about 6 weeks to just get this program in, when do you get to understand the needs of the particular child to tailor your curriculum to that? So the impact program should not be as an impact for July, August. It should be something continuous where we assess each child's needs. So we should seek referrals from the teachers. What is the particular challenge with this child? Is it that it is reading, it needs improvement? Is it writing? Is it too slow that is being kept back in class? What is this particular child's need? So it's best to have the child's teacher play some role in the program and not have them dispersed in different spaces and try to have this thing packed in 6 weeks. So if there's continuity, then, but it will need some structure and, of course, resources.
Excellent. And I think it's a very good suggestion that you're making, going beyond just that 6-week period, because the good Lord knows we need to have some kind of intervention, particularly for those, because folks, we've got to face the reality. All our students are not going to progress at the same level. And it is the responsibility of those in authority, teachers, etc., by extension, for us to try to put systems and mechanisms in place to help support them if we want the society that we're looking for in the long run. Now, we're also talking curriculum. And for some time now, one of the discussions that would have taken place here in the Tobago space is attempting to customize, to modify, and to speak to not just what is that national curriculum, but I like to see add-ons that allow for what is more Tobago-specific, Tobago-centric, and so on. Tell me about the views of a tutor as it relates to that aspect of the curriculum, and where what's the progress to date?
Well, we have been steadily advocated for a focus. It's just that the education system, there isn't a particular focus. We have various content and it's segmented to the point where the math teacher teaches math at this time and the science teacher teaches science at this time, and there's no relation. The child that doesn't understand the formula would be seen as not being so bright, and they're struggling, but probably don't understand the formula in the language that we are using. So if we have the example of the subject-verb agreement, we go to the textbook, we get some examples from there, but why can't these sentences be on tourism? So we're teaching subject-verb agreements. You're not changing the curriculum. You're teaching subject-verb agreement on a tourism background. or an agriculture background, so the child could relate and have more meaningfulness to what is taking place in the classroom. We don't have that. So the child who, let's say, lives nearby the sea and will understand fishing, will hear the dad talking about how much pounds of fish and how much they sell and so on. They can't relate because the language we use in school is just like long division, divide, multiply, subtract, bring down, and there's no relation to life. Now, some would argue that teachers could do that on their own, but it will still be segmented. We need schools running particular programs. So we can pick some schools and have those schools focus on tourism, some focus on the TVET areas, metalwork, woodwork, even from the primary school level, agriculture, so that there is that direct relationship with what they're learning in school and life. And learning is life. And life is learning and the reverse.
So is it safe to say that this initiative to look at what might be a Tobago focus kind of curriculum is something that a tutor would be willing to support?
Yes, and actually, well, I would have written to the secretary for a meeting. We should be having a meeting this evening. We need to make a change. If we don't make that change, we're going to continue talking about indiscipline in school. We're going to continue blaming the commissioner and the police for not getting a handle on crime when education is the answer. So we need to get education a lot more meaningful to our students. Too many of our students leaving school without subjects. Too many children doing SE and can't read, and we just send them off because of the age. So I know that there are the positives. We celebrate those who come first in the Caribbean and so on, but that's the minority. So if we don't make a change, we're going to continue getting what we get.
Excellent indeed. Any other message or so you'd want to share out there, particularly for your teachers going into this vacation period, and some would say long deserved in terms of this vacation time out period? Your thoughts?
Well, the educational environment is getting a little too frustrating, I would say. When I listen to the feedback from the teachers and the parents and so on, it's like we're having these goals that we are not meeting, and we seem to be blaming each other. So the parents not there as you'd want them to be, and the teachers, some persons are blaming the teachers for not committing as they should. But it's the absence of a collaborative approach why we having this blame game and so on. So teachers, I would always commend them for the work they're doing, and also to be open to the parents and even the supervisors, the principal and so on. We all have our emotions, that's what we deal with. As professionals, we have to put those things aside and try our best with our students. But I would hope that you see the little niggling things that teachers have to be facing with their increments and the gratuity and the furniture in school, like they're trying to make things work, that they don't have those things, that we could just focus on education. Most times when we meet at the division, we're speaking at the problems as to those things. We would want to be proactive. So at least when I meet with the administrator, we should be able to discuss how we're moving forward in enhancing the offering of education in Tobago. So teachers, be patient, and your association will try their best.
You just touched on something there very quickly, meetings and so on. I know some time back there might have been challenge. Would you say that there are improvements now in the relations, that meetings are taking place with the divisions, or the challenges still exist in terms of being able to get meetings in the first place before you even get to discussing and finding solutions?
Well, I would say there are great improvements. We have that relation with the administrator, whether it's a phone call, a visit. The HR team at the division is very welcoming to me and so on. Conversation with the secretary, the assistant secretary. While we would like to have more meetings, it's not that the secretary and they just sitting down waiting on tutor for a meeting. They are busy. So we are grateful that we're having the meeting today. During the period when we had the oil spill, we had regular spot meetings and so on. So the communication is where it's much improved, and I would say I appreciate the various parties for their participation in having a more amicable relation.
All right, good. So while I know it's not the responsibility of tutor, I just want to leave one note with tutor. Since those meetings are taking place, make sure you all start to discuss the school repair program early enough in 2024. Yeah. We are early enough in the year to ensure that July, August is definitely a most productive period to prepare for our students to return in September. Thank you very much again, Braden Roberts, Tobago Officer for Tutor, joining us here in studio this morning on the Tobago Updates Morning Show. And viewers, we want to remind you that this is your opportunity to share the live. We'll be right back.
Scrub Ties brings to you our organic fat dissolving shots. Yes, guys, our lemon butter shot breaks down stubborn fat, tightens any loose skin while increasing your metabolism. No side effects, no downtime. We also offer cavitation, cellulite treatment, butt, breast, hip dip fillers, weight loss, fertility IVs, and much more. Contact us on 495-6624 or follow us on Instagram at Scrub Ties Body Contouring.
Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning.
Good morning, viewers. We just had about 7:28 a.m. and welcome back to the Tobago Updates morning show, coming to you here live from the Port Mall in Scarborough, Tobago. On a set with us this morning, we have Superintendent Rodel Kerr of the TTPS, Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, as we speak to crime updates from the TTPS. And we're also chatting this morning about safety tips during the school vacation. As we mentioned earlier, this is the start of the school vacation. A lot of activities happening to keep our children engaged, but at the same time, it's also important for us to speak to the issue of safety. Good morning to you and welcome.
Good morning, Julian. Good morning, Tobago. Good morning to your international listeners as well.
All right. Excellent indeed. And we're happy to have you here with us this morning. And, I've always described you as one of those that not afraid to face the media. And then I saw one or two times we had some of the other representatives, sergeants, etc. in between. And I know that is part of your grooming process to make sure that there's a wide array.
Of course it is. Of course.
All right. Certainly. As we have you on this morning, we're going to dive straight on in. Yesterday, particularly last night or so, we heard of what would have been a major accident that took place in the Magdalena area. Any updates for us on that?
What I could tell you that persons were injured, yes, indeed. Thankfully, there were no fatalities. And, we continue to urge persons to exercise the greatest level of caution when using the roadways. We already have 2 fatalities for the year 2024, and we're trying to keep it at that minimal. So again, time and time again, I reach out to persons using the road to exercise, obey the traffic laws, obey the traffic regulations. And I think once we do that, once we give consideration for other persons using the road, I think that, we'll be okay. So again, I reach out to the Tobago public, exercise that level of caution on the roadways.
I want to use the opportunity as well, the reminder to persons in relation to speed limits, because some tend to think if the road is clearer, I could go faster versus if the speed limit, particularly in that area and on the highway there for us.
Right. There are certain areas along that highway which have 2 main speed limit, mainly 50 in some areas and 80 in some areas. Like, for example, if you are coming from the east, between that Hope stretch and the backlit traffic lights, it's 50 kilometers per hour. After the traffic lights at backlit, go right down, it is 80 until you pass the Shervan traffic lights again in that area, it's 50. But some people, like the vehicles that they drive are a bit too, hard for them to control. I know that it's sometimes when you build up the momentum, it's hard to come back. But you have to be mindful of the speed limits. And I know in the near future, I will provide the list of areas in which with the necessary speed limits so that persons could be aware as to, the speed limits on the nation's roadway.
All right, excellent. We want to also get from you updates in relation to our progress with regards to solving some of these murders and crimes and so on happening in Tobago. Of course, the numbers rising uncomfortably, and by that I mean one is already too much in the Tobago space, and we're at more than that. What has been the progress in terms of treating with and attempting to find those who are responsible?
Again, I must commend my officers for the work that they are doing. We have had 5 murders for 2024 so far. The first one that happened on New Year's Day, we had a person charged and is before the court for that. There are others you may see very soon that we may break some ground in terms of our success. Too early to say something now, but I know that there are things in the making that will see other perpetrators facing the court for some of the murders that occur. And again, I want to let people know that, give us that chance. Give us that, be patient. Murder investigations are one that I always say a very complex investigation. And we want to get it right the first time. So notwithstanding, you see it may take some time. The police are working behind the scenes. In respect to the shooting at next to the Signal Secondary School, suspect was arrested and charged. He was denied bail and is due to appear in court again sometime in August this year. He was charged with several offenses: shooting with intent, possession of firearm, etc. There were one other shooting with which a suspect is also in custody, and very soon that suspect should appear in court. So there have been some successes over the week. And, the police, again, in spite of the challenges, are working hard to bring some of these matters to solution. And you're going to see that going forward.
All right. Superintendent Cook, I also want you to bring some clarity to our matter. So just about a week or so ago, I was in the vicinity of the Rockley Vale traffic light. Mm-hmm. Of course, saw police dashing out behind a vehicle, a high-speed chase there, I would describe it as, between that Rockley Vale and Codler Hall traffic light. It would appear that what is now circulating very heavily on social media is the stopping point that happened right in between on the highway there, that they were able to pick up on camera, seeing the police. Of course, persons would have only seen that part, but I was actually right there to see it myself passing by. Okay. Now, the issue that has been raised coming out of that is that there's indications from the individual. It is alleged that they attempted to go to the police station to make a report, and the response that they receive is police can't take reports against police. I want you to give some guidance to the public. When circumstances like this occurs, I suppose if somebody feels as though they are grieved, I want you to bring some clarity to that position about police not being able to take reports against police, just for the purpose of our viewers and listeners. What's the procedure?
All right. I heard the news and I only heard one side of the story as alleged by the person who said that. But when a person comes to make a complaint against a police officer, there is a process in accordance with our standing orders to say that you will only take the name and address of the person and that they came to make a report against a police officer. But what's supposed to happen is that they're supposed to be given the relevant forms. They are prescribed forms in which those persons will lodge those reports on. And there's a process which follows. So when they make the report, they will bring the report in. They will, of course, get a duplicate. And then the reports go to the complaints division, who will then appoint an investigator to continue the investigation. So that is a process that takes place. And it's not that the police can't take report against police, but there's a process in which a report must be taken according to our rules and regulations. So I believe the person may not have understood what was told to them. I'm not saying that maybe that the officer didn't say that, but sometimes, it's according to how the response or that was given or the person interpret what was said to them. But this is the process that usually will take place. It's a prescribed form that you make your complaint, and then it goes to the relevant authority, who would then appoint the investigator and continue the investigation.
So in that circumstance, if that occurs, it would be safe that somebody, probably you go into a station, if they have that charge, they can ask perhaps for the officer in charge to assist with,
of course,
facilitating that?
You see, what we're trying to avoid is that that perception of apparent bias. So you see, when you come and the police officer may be working in the station and you may quick to allege that, hey, they want to cover it up. So this is why it takes a particular process, right, to avoid this kind of perception of apparent bias. So that's the process in which to deal with complaints. And if the person have a problem with going to the police station, they could come to the senior officer who would guide them accordingly so that the process could be dealt with expeditiously. So, I have seen people go to the media, etc., to say that, okay, things will be covered up. And they didn't try or exhaust all the other avenues in which they could go. So, it's something that is expected. People are grieved and they will do a particular thing. But if there's a problem or an issue with you making a report, come to the senior officers.
All right. Okay. And that's located at the stations itself, or there's the main building?
Our admin office located at the ADB building, number 12 Young Street. Or if it is that you have a problem when you go to the charge room at the police station, ask for the inspector. There's an inspector in charge of the station. So deal with the inspector, and the inspector will guide you accordingly.
All right. So viewers and listeners, there are avenues available there. In the first instance, you'd go right to the charge room. If you're not getting the redress or the information that you require, the forms and so to follow the process, you can also deal with the inspector in charge. And if that also fails, you have the avenue of going to the relevant authorities, senior at that in the police service, to ensure that you're able to make the necessary submission. So just to clarify, it's not that you cannot report an incident or a circumstance, but of course to keep the process very fair.
Let me also reiterate that you could go to any police station to make a report concerning that, and the same process would take place.
Excellent indeed.
Right? Yeah.
So we're diving on in as well to the topic. We're just at the start of the school vacation, and I'm certain over the years you know that there are synonymous challenges sometimes associated with the matter of safety, and I would want to get your guidance and your reminders this morning in terms of the information you'd want to put out there to the public, specific at that, to safety during these school vacation periods.
Right. Again, the school is out and a lot of children will be home in the home environment. We want to urge parents to remember their responsibility in terms of safety for their children, parents and guardians alike. And you owe that duty of care to your child's safety. We know you have to work. What you could do is engage your child in some sort of extracurricular activities. I know before my segment, you spoke about a lot of camps being offered, yes, reputable camps. Get your children engaged. But you must know also, you must leave your children with a responsible adult. Because, sometimes we leave the children and the children are wandering all about the roadways. And again, I want to assure parents again, your responsibility in terms of children of tender age are very vulnerable. I see a lot of children walking alongside the roadway alone, children like 6 and 7 and 8. That should not be encouraged. Unfortunately, I'm seeing in the public space about the accident with the child. I want to assure the public that the matter is being investigated and not like people say that it's been swept under the carpet. The police will do a thorough investigation. And when I say a thorough investigation, I mean that you will look at all angles, because in an accident, what you look at as well too is whether in fact the culpability of the driver, whether the driver breached any traffic regulation. And we must also look at the fact that, I don't have all the facts, but we must look at the fact that whether the child of such an age, that child who was in the company of that child, if that child was alone on the road, you're looking at all of that. Again, that is why I want to assure parents, don't leave your children to wander about the roadway by themselves. You have a responsibility as well. And I want to take this opportunity to wish the parents of that child and to wish the child a speedy recovery. And again, I want to confirm that the investigation is ongoing and the police will do all within their power to bring this investigation to a closure.
All right. What are your suggestions? And as we're talking camps as well, and I know you mentioned a very key word there, reputable. what should parents do beyond just seeing an ad or something saying this is an activity or camp for your child?
Do the investigation. Look at who are the organizers, who are the hosts. Look at all of that and do your due diligence. Because it's not that you just pick up a child and send them to a camp, because you must look to see what the person's involved. Because, you know, sometimes, sorry to say, sometimes you will have pedophiles, you will have all kind of persons involved in these activities. So you have to do your due diligence and ensure that what you're getting into your child into is something that you'll be comfortable with at the end of the day. Because, again, we know there are predators out here, right? If you look at the history, the historical context of the persons who treat with these activities, you look at their background. And if you want assistance, you could even check with the police. The police may get some information for you. So those are things you must look at. And, you know, try to get that advice and information as much. Do your research so that you don't make that mistake in sending your child into something that you will regret at a later day. Right? So again, too, when you choose to leave your child with a responsible adult, make sure that you know who you're leaving that child with. Make sure that the person is someone that you can trust. Make sure that the person is one that has a background that is clean, you know. I mean, you can't be too careful, right? So these are things that you have to look at, especially in this modern day. Because people have a tendency, you will be surprised as to what people are involved in. So your responsibility is, you're supposed to do that due diligence and ensure that your child is well protected.
Excellent. And we want to touch on the flip side very quickly. Those who believe the children and the child responsible enough, the eldest one who might not necessarily be at that adult age, is old enough or mature enough to take care of the one or two other younger ones that might be in the household when I'm running off to work to come back, or running out of the house for about a little hour or two and I can't find an adult to stay with them. What is your advice and guidance and probably admonition based on the law? Again, as it relates to those?
Again, the law says that a child is a person under the age of 18 years old. So it doesn't mean that you leave a minor to take care of a minor. That should not be discouraged at all. And this is one where you could face the the wrong end of the law, so to speak, where if the police investigate and found that you do that, you can face prosecution. So again, I know it's a difficult time for parents, but this is something that is anticipated. You know the holidays are upon us. You're supposed to be able to plan way ahead in front to say, well, you know, when this time comes, what am I going to do with my child? How am I going to care for my child? That is something that you're supposed to already have thought out as to what you're going to do. So, you know, it is not to be encouraged to have a minor taking care of a minor. Because, you know, children have a mind of their own sometimes and they do some things. Look, even this time is one of the times we see a lot of what you call drownings and so on in the beaches. So even when you're going to the beaches, make sure that you supervise children who use these flotation devices. You make sure that you obey all rules at the beaches from the lifeguards, obey the instructions. And where there are no lifeguards, you now have to look out for all the impending dangers and take the necessary action, right? So again, be careful, be cautious, and ensure that everybody goes out safe and returns safe. It is your responsibility, parents. You can't delegate that to anyone.
We have a Tobago technicality where people tend to say they're in the house, but I ask the neighbor to cast an eye. Is that acceptable as leaving the children in the care of an adult? Or really, you should probably send those children by the neighbor, ensure that there's more that overall supervision. What is the advice of the TTPS? Because you know that happens in our Tobago space. I tell the neighbor to cast an eye because I'm running out for an hour or two and them children home.
If you have to tell the neighbor cast an eye, you have the neighbor go directly there, or have the children go to the neighbor. Because again, the neighbor may lose sight of them if it's just a look. The neighbor would have their own business to do. So that is something that, you know, you have to make sure. And again, too, people think it's easy as that. If you volunteer or assume responsibility for the protection of children and something should happen, the one who assumes responsibilities could also be liable for any harm that come to the child. So you see how the thing relates? So It's something that you have to make sure that if you ask somebody to take care of children, the person have to, accept in such a way, and you have to be comfortable that they actually accept to do that, and the person either have to have that direct supervision of those children. Because if not, and something else happened, the person didn't take or accept what you say, and you leave your children abandoned, and something should happen, the law will deal with you.
All right, excellent indeed. Your closing words that you'd want to share with us, Superintendent Kirk, this morning to put out there to our viewers and listeners. I know we are also going into an active period, and Easter is that kind of time in Tobago.
Exactly. Well, the Easter time is coming up, and I just want to urge the Tobago public to exercise that level of caution whilst going to the many activities that are due to come up. We, the police, have put things in place to ensure safety to our residents and our visitors alike. You will see us on the road. You will see visibility. We will do that. We'll do our best to ensure that the island is policed. We want to continue to urge the Tobago population to continue to cooperate with us. We have had a good relationship with the members of the public, and we continue to work alongside the public, continue to create and foster that partnership. We also want you to know that in spite of what you see going around in the public space, the police will not try to cover up anything that involves police officers. I think we go on past, we are in the 21st century now, and there are so many things that will prevent that. So, I want the public to know that we are going to do our best to investigate thoroughly any allegations made against police officers. And, just give us the opportunity. We will do what we need to do. And when you look, you will see at the end of the day, you will realize that we are genuine, we can be trusted, and we continue to urge you to continue to work with us.
Excellent. And I see a quick question coming in. Can we also look out to the traffic restrictions later on this week for Monday and Tuesday, which is between the Mount Pleasant area, with the activities happening for Easter, and Tuesday in terms of Buku?
Yes, basically, we'll have police officers working at these events, and we will put out something as we go forward. You know that area will be very congested in terms of pedestrian and vehicular traffic. Police officers will be on the road, and you will see that you will be notified in time as to how the roadways will be used.
Excellent indeed. So that gentle reminder to all out there, we got that responsibility. We got to work hand in hand with the TTPS, most definitely. And folks, yes, we are on the school vacation. Don't fall into the trap as it may put you in problems with the law. And interesting enough, something I learned this morning, even that neighbor cast in the eye, or the individual who may have decided to take responsibility, you can also be held, liable in some way, form, or fashion, in addition to the parents, as the individuals taking on that responsibility. So let's make sure we continue to care for our children and young persons out there, especially those who are under the age, so that we leave them within proper supervision and management in times where we are not around. Thank you very much again, Superintendent Rodilke of the TTPS, for joining us here on set this morning on the Tobago Updates morning show. Quick shout outs to some of our viewers on the live this morning. I see Alicia Devine's in the mix, Auntie Dora Lyons, Sharon Mills. I see Sanisha Renrick, Auntie Helen out there, Lavian in the mix, Terry Trinidad, Rodney Pigott, Pearl Murray Beard, Lisa James, Myrna Roberts Quashy. Good morning, Julia Brown. To each and every one of you, we want to say thank you so much for continuing to choose the Tobago Updates morning show. And at this point, viewers, we want to remind you that this is your opportunity to share the live, share the live, share the live. We'll be right back.
It's March Madness at Standard Distributors Limited. Get $100 back for every $1,000 you spend. Major appliance deals on Frigidaire, Hyacinth, Samsung, and more. Plus, same-day financing options available. Don't miss out. Sale ends March 31st. Standard, never beaten on quality and prices.
World Match Glamorgan Youth Foundation Annual Regatta. Only the toughest will survive. Watch as teams viciously compete in various events: triathlon, obstacle course, and bamboo raft race on the Great Dog River. Only the bravest of sea dwellers dare race on the waters of Richmond Bay. Principal Pie After Party powered by the Street 91.9 FM Tobago. Cash prizes to be won and so much more. Action starts at 8:30 a.m. down at Richmond Bay. For more information, please contact 375-3835 or 776-9193. So, who will you represent?
Yo everyone, it's your boy Harry here from Authentic Builders General Hardware, located right here in Stobie Local Road, Tobago. That's correct, right here in Tobago. And we are offering you guys the best prices on all hardware material. And if you would like to get your free quotation done, all you have to do is WhatsApp us at 272-1990 and we will give you guys the best prices on all hardware material. That is a guarantee, as we are matching or beating any quotations.
Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning.
Welcome back to the morning show on Tobago Updates Television. I am Adana Kambi and we're at 7:53 a.m. So if you're getting to work for 8 a.m., you should be pulling into the parking lot to get there on time to earn an honest day's pay. Yes, okay, viewers, we continue conversations this morning in studio with our guest, and we're speaking with Mr. Leroy George, and he is cast member of the Tobago Drama Guild, and we're talking about blood money. Now, when you hear the term blood money, you're thinking all sorts, but I'm going to give you a brief insight before he starts speaking. Blood Money is a tragic comedy, and it's written in the language of the people. What is the language of the people? It's set in a fictional yet familiar village that could be on any Caribbean island, and it's suggested by the nuances of the rich local vernacular. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Miss Ayana. How are you doing today?
I am well, thanks. I'm well, thank you. Thank you so much for coming. And of course, we're talking Blood Money.
Yes.
It's a drama coming out from the Tobago Drama Guild.
Yes.
And of course, it sounds already so very rich, in content. So we want to get some insight into this drama. What is the genesis behind it, the reason for it, and what we can expect coming out of it?
Well, you could expect to see it as soon as the 27th and the 28th, that weekend in April. And at 7 p.m., we're going to be doing it in Lowlands at the Drama Guild facility, just in case anybody's wondering where that is. You know where Magdalena Grand have their entrance right there on the main road right there? Just turn in on the other side of the road, first right. And you're there at the Drama Guild. And it's a play, it's a drama, as you said. And it seeks to look at what motivates people, human beings, when it comes to their insecurities, etc., as they try to rise up on the socioeconomic ladder that we as human beings create for ourselves, and all the tragic things that could happen as a result of that.
So what are some of the actions people take, to get on that same ladder, because, we talk about equal opportunity and equality, but is it available to all? So what are some of the things people tend to do that are kind of off the books to get themselves up that ladder?
As you talk about equality and equity and all of that, there are sections in the play where one of the lead characters, his name is Jerome, would speak to the audience about why he does what he does from the perspective of a juvenile delinquent, a young black male juvenile delinquent in a Caribbean environment, etc. He talks about the hypocrisies that those in power tend to have, those holding all the money and all the influence tend to have over the younger ones, etc. He ends up engaging in a robbery. I don't want to give away too much, but I think I should give some, right? And during the robbery, he had to throw away his bag at some point, and a lady finds it, and she wants to climb up the socioeconomic ladder, and so she doesn't do what is right, etc. And a couple people end up dying, hence the name Blood Money.
The drama in this, and sometimes when we think about it, our society really is sort of top-heavy.
Yes.
Right? All the richness is at the top, and so people will do what it takes. whether they're right or they're wrong, they'll do what it takes to get a piece of the pie.
Yes.
Right? Because the ones on the top want all, and the people at the bottom thinking, well, you're having and I'm not. And I'm assuming that this is what this is about in terms of...
And it even addresses how persons who would have come from the bottom find themselves in the top. There's a character who recently ran into some legal money, proper money, etc., and doesn't want to leave his community because he's in love with his community, but his wife isn't feeling as safe. And they look at the dynamics between male and females in the same society, etc., because she, being a woman, probably feels more unsafe than him as a big, strong guy, etc.
Who can defend himself,
He end up dying and leaving his wife as a widow and all
this
of that.
Sounds
it's real fun.
It sounds so like real life, dramatic, yes, but there are certain things that you can identify with from what you've said so far in this drama. So it will be really interesting for persons to, to go out there and support this initiative and to see from your perspective as the Drama Guild, how these things play out in our society. So remind us again when this is happening.
So you're looking at the weekend of the 27th and the 28th of next month, right? It's going to be happening at 7 p.m. on both days, right? You could contact Cheryl Uzoro, who wrote the play, right? Or you could contact Sheena also, or you can contact myself, right? The numbers for Cheryl and Sheena is at the bottom of your screen right now. My number will be 750-8369. Or if you know any of the other cast members, like for instance, we have Amanda Gregg, we have Antonio, we have Andel Franklin, we have myself, we have my wife, Joel Green George. A lot of people know our president of the Tobago Writers Guild. And we have so much other. We have Nicole Moses, etc. If you know any of the cast members, we'll all have tickets. And you could come to see it. $100 for adults, general, public. And if you happen to be a student, then it'll be $75. But that is the advanced tickets. If you come on the night, you're not paying $150 if you pay at the door. But you could come and pay at the door. We wouldn't mind the extra $50 at all.
But how do you verify that I'm a student? If I turn up there and I say I'm a student?
Man, we're a trusting population. If you look smart,
right.
All right,
okay.
We see the ambition.
So this is something I'm very interested in, and I'd love to see how it unfolds and, how it is played out on the stage. And so I just want to encourage our viewers out there to support this initiative, Blood Money. You can see some elements there of real life situations. It might not be your life, but the life of somebody in your community or something you might have seen. And as it mentions, it spans the entire culture of the Caribbean. So you might see something that is relative to someone that you know somewhere out there. So I want to encourage you to go out and, participate in this event and just take in what the skills and the talents, as he said, is written by Cheryl Uzoro. So there's skill there, there's talent there. Let's support our local talent right here in Tobago and give them that measure of support. In closing, is there anything else you'd like to share with our viewers?
And everybody, just to put on the brand there, because everybody know when Tabiti Smart is the director of anything, that means we practicing every single day and it's going to be perfect. So don't worry about anything mediocre. Tabiti Smart, director, writer, Cheryl is one of the best writers out here, etc. And you guys probably know one or two members from the cast. We're pretty talented individuals. This is my first time being involved in the arts in this form, but they whipped me into shape pretty quickly. Yeah.
Right, I'm happy to hear that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's happening out there at the end of April. So stay tuned for more information on that and to get your tickets as well. This is where we wrap the morning show on Tobago Updates Television. But it's not where we end our programming. We continue with Tobago Notes. And then we head on over to GMT with Candice Jackson. So we ask that you stay with us. And while you stay with us, of course, this is your opportunity to share the live, share the live, share the live.
Proverbs 22:6 says, "Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it." This biblical quote sums it up nicely what the 4-H Club is all about. It's all about children building life skills by leading in hands-on projects, which help them grow in confidence, independence, resilience, and compassion. Over 300 Tobago students were inducted as 4-H members recently. The students beamed with pride as they get ready to put their 4-H's into action as they navigate through life.
We gather here today under the theme to make the best better, which encapsulates the essence of what this remarkable organization represents. To the soon-to-be inducted members, let me extend my heartfelt congratulations to each and every one of you. Your hard work, dedication, and unwavering commitment have earned you a place among the ranks of the esteemed 4-H Club. Today, we celebrate your achievements and recognize the potential that lies within each of you to make a profound difference in our society.
It always warms my heart to look at the sea of white and green at our 4-H induction. You are becoming official 4-H members, and I encourage you, our future students, our present, you, our future, our hope, to continue to use the 4-H's, your head, your heart, your hands, and your health, as we strive to always make the best better.
The induction ceremony was held at the Shore Park complex.
That was a production of the Department of Information, Office of the Chief Secretary, Tobago House of Assembly.
Tobago. On Easter Monday, the 1st of April, we get ready to hush in full bloom the all-inclusive breakfast party from 5 a.m. till 12 noon at Mount Irving. Performing live, I Will Joy, because the stage not good again, and Poetics. We don't be young, but we be somebody. Featuring John Boy and Ezel, Assassin and Smalls, Agent B, and Loud and Bashing, Selector 3D, and Snoopy. Tickets are $600. Available at Island E-Tickets, Jade Monkey, Ice Tin, and Ted Arthur's Leather Stores. For more info, 721-1992. Hush in full bloom, the all-inclusive breakfast party.
Rotisserie, mouth-watering fries, salads, combos, and specials galore. Feeling for something to eat? Come and see. Our rotisserie is seasoned to the T. Kicking chicken, masala, and jerk roast. Crispy fries made from scratch. Who do you know can beat that? Or salads freshly cut and packed. When you taste it, you'll be wanting to come back. So come check us out on number 2 Robinson Street, Uptown Scarborough, Tobago. We open on Saturday nights from 7:30 to 11:30 p.m. Monday to Thursday, we're open from 10 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. and on Friday 10 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Contact us at 772-7443 and all social media handles at The Rotisserie Factory.
Yeah. Hey. Tobago updates. Good morning, Tobago.
It's a brand new morning, rise up to a brand new dawning as the passion start to rise. Welcome to Good Morning Tobago on Tobago Updates, your source for current affairs in Tobago, Trinidad, and the region. With the perfect conversations to complement your morning routine, I am Candice Jackson, and let's get started with the news in 90 seconds. The PNM Tobago Council leader Ansel Dennis claimed that the Fally Augustine-led administration is trying to tarnish his reputation to win the next elections. In a video posted to social media, Dennis stated that the current administration is using smear tactics and propaganda utilizing URP workers. He referenced a video of a URP worker criticizing the use of pitch pine instead of teak at the Buku Boardwalk, which Dennis labeled as false propaganda. Dennis, former assemblyman for Buku Mount Pleasant until the PNM's 2021 defeat, defended the boardwalk's material choice as a pandemic-related necessity and maintained that proper maintenance would have prolonged its lifespan. Up next, Opposition Senator Wade Marks, speaking at a press conference, highlighted key issues affecting the nation, such as democratic principles, property tax, economic diversification, and impending retrenchment at WASA. Mark underscored that the nation is facing challenges, such as the inability to produce 1 million tons of methanol for export and a decline in natural gas production, which is impacting revenue and foreign exchange. He criticized the government's proposed property tax as being perceived as a burden on residential homeowners and called for unity to confront these challenges. And finally, as the investigation into the Strategic Services Agency continues under Brigadier Anthony Phillips Spencer, 12 employees have been dismissed, some failing polygraph tests. However, at least 5 of these individuals, including Joanne Daniel, were from the Cyber Defense and Cyber Operations units. Additionally, Pastor Ian Brown's son, self-proclaimed as the SSA spy, who was also a part of the unit, leading to Brown's removal from his SRP status by the TTPS. Initially, 3 murders were linked to the SSA probe, but the investigation has expanded to include additional deaths, including that of a reputed gangster. And that was the news in 90 seconds. And viewers, for this morning, for the entire hour this morning, we'll be getting into a topic that's been at the forebear of many of your minds, and that is the impending property tax. Now, you would have seen some of the valuations. Some of you might have even received your property valuations in recent weeks. But and then we heard in the Parliament last week, there was a reduction of the tax from 3% of the rental value to 2%. And we're going to get into what all of that means. How are you supposed to get your stuff together, and how are you supposed to be able to really understand what's being imposed on us? So to give us an idea, I am being joined by Miss Lois Leslie, and of course, you know, she has been somebody with a lot of experience when it comes to properties and home ownership and all of that sort of thing. So we're just happy that she's on with us this morning to give us an independent perspective on what is this property tax all about. So good morning and welcome to you.
Good morning, Candice. Thank you for having me, and good morning to your viewers and listeners. It's a pleasure.
All right, so let me just start basic, just to briefly explain what is this property tax?
Property tax. You know, we pay various taxes to the state for different reasons. Mm-hmm. Property tax is really a tax levied by the state on what we call immovable objects and also sometimes movable objects. So when we talk about the immovable objects, they're the ones that we focus on right now, the land, okay? The buildings on the land, anything that sits on the land cannot move, immovable. But there's also property tax that's charged on things like equipment, vehicles, all right? So it's a tax levied by the state based on property that citizens own. And essentially, that's what property tax is.
And under the Land and Building Act of 2009, how does that relate to us?
Okay, so the first installment of the property tax was in 2009, where a system was established to govern how property tax is going to be charged and levied against citizens, residents. Over the years, there have been several iterations of that act, several amendments to the act. Now we're at the stage where there's a new installment of the whole property tax system
Yes.
is about to happen. Okay, and as a matter of fact, as recent as today, there's another discussion in Parliament with respect to some amendments that the Minister of Finance is seeking, to the Act. So, but the important thing is that it's an act of Parliament. It governs property tax. We've not had to pay property tax since 2009.
Yes.
And so we're at the place where we're about to be called to task in terms of making that payment, that standard annual payment to government with respect to taxes levied against our properties. And I must say that in terms of the actual rolling out and the actual execution of the property tax system, there's another act that really becomes central to the process, and it's the Valuation of Lands Act. And that was first established in 1969. Again, subsequent amendments. But it starts with the Valuation of Lands Act because what first has to be established is what is going to be the taxable value that's going to be used to assess and to calculate the required tax. And so these two acts govern what happens going forward, and they're very central to the property tax system.
I want to stick a pin right there and just sort of talk about why the need to have a new act for, valuations of land, because, and I say this because when you listen to some of the presentations that were made in Parliament last week, and, we heard the variations of how the value of land was calculated under, various acts, just talk about just us being able to sort of needing to streamline this whole thing.
Okay. So we evolve, we've developed, property values have increased over time, property tax systems have changed, property tax systems vary among countries. It's a global system where governments find it imperative to use property tax as a means of earning valuable income for public benefit, all right? Public expenditure. And so in 2009, the taxes we paid were very minuscule. And if you think about paying a few cents or a few dollars in today's world where our property values have really increased astronomically between 2009 and 2024, then one can understand the need for a new look at the process, a new look at the system of determining what is reasonable, what is just property tax. And hence the reason there's a whole revamping of the system.
Right. So everywhere now, no matter where you are in Trinidad and Tobago, you're going to now fall under this whole new annual rental value system, where there's a formula that government is using to calculate the value of your land. And then from that value, that annual rental value that they determine, then 2%, well, based on last week's change in Parliament or amendment in Parliament, 2% of that would be your tax value. But the tricky thing that people are struggling with is that valuation of the land, how the government is coming up with that annual rental value system, that formula. Could you shed some light on that?
Sure. I want to start at the beginning of the process because homeowners and property owners have been interfacing, have been contacted by various arms of the state under the umbrella of the Ministry of Finance, the Valuation Division, and now more recently, the Board of Inland Revenue. Now, that annual rental value we speak about, what's the genesis of that? I'm going to go back to when it was required for property owners to submit what we call a valuation form. That form required all property owners to disclose pertinent information about their properties, whether it's vacant land or whether it's land with building or buildings on it. And the reason for that is to allow the Valuation Division to use the information to assist them in determining, first of all, that annual rental value. And the annual rental value is the basis that is used to calculate our tax, our residential property, the tax on the residential properties. What it is every property has a propensity to earn a rental income. So based on the information provided, that valuation rule, which is really a database that seeks to identify every single property in Trinidad and Tobago and assess their values, right? That guides now what the monthly rental of that property is likely to be on the open market. And then using that monthly rental value, we can now calculate an annual rental value, which is 12 months.
Yes.
By your monthly rental. So it is, and then based on that annual rental value, the tax percentage is applied. But even before it's applied, there's what we call a void. That's a deduction of 10% of that annual value. That's calculated. And then the net is what is the 3% or the 2% that is now being sought by the Minister of Finance. That's where that comes in. That's how it's going to be applied.
So it's not just 2% of the actual rental value. It's actually less than that.
Correct.
And there is this sort of confusion as to, even how that annual rental value is calculated. Do you have any insights as to that formula and how the government is working that out?
Okay. So even before I go there, let me say that property owners should receive 2 notices from the state.
Yes.
And the first one is your notice of valuation, which is prepared and dispatched from the valuation division, from the Commission of Valuations. That notice of valuation does several things. It identifies your property. It gives your property what we call a PIN. That's your property identification number. Just, like you have a banking account online. There's a PIN that you use to access your information. It's an identifier. And that PIN is each property has its own unique PIN. The notice of valuation identifies the property address, who in their database is the owner of the property, and then it provides the annual rental value of the property. And we'll go into how we calculate that in a little bit. Once you've received that, the property owner has an opportunity to even raise an objection. At this point, the time frame, it was 30 days from receipt of that notice, and there is an effort now by the Minister of Finance to seek an extension to 6 months.
Yes. I think that was actually passed last week in the Parliament.
Right. When that process is done, that annual rental value information now is then passed to Inland Revenue. And at Inland Revenue, your tax liability is established, and then you receive that notice of assessment from Inland Revenue. That tells you, again using your PIN, the identifier for the property, and it tells you, based on your annual rental value, this is what your tax liability is going to be. And we have, there's an image I would like to ask them to place on the screen so I can talk a little bit more about how we arrive at our tax liabilities.
So if we could get that up on the screen now.
And we'll start with the residential. Actually, before, I would say right now, the focus is on residential properties because property tax will eventually filter across to other types of properties. But at this point in time, the first installment deals with residential properties. And there are properties that are land with buildings on them, and there are also residential properties that are just vacant land. So we first look at the residential properties that have lands and
next slide.
Next slide, please.
Right.
Okay, great. So I'm trying to use some realistic figures in our space because, Candice, If you're renting in Tobago and a decent 2-bedroom apartment, the monthly rent is about $3,500.
$3,000, yeah, 5.
Yeah. A small standalone home may be anywhere between that 4,000. It all depends. So I'm just trying to use some realistic figures. And then we have at different levels. But let's start with the $3,500 a month rent.
Mm-hmm.
So if the property can be rented on the market at $3,500 per month, then the annual rent available to the property is $42,000.
Mm-hmm.
There's a 10% discount off the top, which works out to $4,200. And therefore, it leaves a net of $37,800, and that's your annual taxable value. In other words, this is the amount against which the tax is going to be applied.
Now, can I just ask, why is that 10% less there?
Usually, we call that for voids, and it takes into account things like, little depreciation and things like that. So even though that's a rentable value, you take into account the fact that you have to spend to maintain your property. So that 10% void is applied.
Okay.
All right? So your annual taxable value now is at $37,800. Previously, the annual tax was 3%.
It's now 2.
It's now 2. So before, it would have calculated at $1,134 per annum. And if we were to look at it from a monthly perspective in terms of your budgeting, for some folks, they may want to pay their taxes on a monthly basis, then your monthly liability then works out at $95. With the reduction to the 2%, that tax liability annually now is $756. And on a monthly basis, it works out to $63 per month.
So in other words, the configurations are not as scary or as daunting as some may have been led to believe.
Absolutely. And of course, if we go back to the slide and you look at if you compare different properties, because different levels of property, different sizes of property, different qualities of accommodation of property will carry different rental values. And therefore, you move from the 35 up to a 5,000. If you have a large home, $10,000. You have a villa with a swimming pool, a huge residence. What that property can earn on the rental market might be $15,000. So if you look at the bottom lines, your tax liability moves from, in our examples, as low as $63 a month to $270 a month based on the value of your property. Some folks challenge the fact or mourn the fact that they're not renting their property. So why am I still having to deal with this? But what is important is not the tax is established based on what your property is able to earn on the market if you were to place it on the market for rent.
Now, could I ask why? Why was that decision made to base evaluations on, or base a tax on the annual rental value of the property instead of the actual value of the property?
Well, for one, if we were to apply these rates to the entire market value of the property, we would be running out of the room. It'd be astronomical. Or the tax, the percentage of tax applied would have to be significantly lower to be able to allow for reasonable tax. Because at the end of the day, you want your taxes to be reasonable, affordable. And I will say there are some countries where, for example, vacant land is taxed heavily. Why? It's the encouragement to develop your property. And as you develop your properties, what you're doing, in fact, is developing your economy. All right? The system that's used globally varies. And so regions and countries choose the system that they want to use. In this instance, our state, our government has decided that this is the system that they are going to use in terms of using the annual rental value, because, and I guess whether you renting a property, whether you earning income from a property or not, the value of the property, the potential of the property is what is really looked at and used as the central point from which the property tax is established.
Now, we also have a tax on vacant land, as you started talking about that. And could you just explain to us a little bit about just the calculations that the government is using for vacant land owned by people?
Okay. So, and we do have another slide for that. And I will first tell you
third
that
slide.
With respect to vacant residential land, what is used as the basis for calculation is what we call the capital value. And that's the value of the land with embellishments, enhancements to the land. Okay? So we use that. And again, if we were to place the slide on the screen.
The third slide, please.
So it'll make it easier for folks to follow along. Great.
Thank you.
Now, again, I'm trying to be realistic in our space.
Yes.
We do have the average lot size is 5,000-6,000 square feet of land. And we find folks owning small lots where they build their small lots of land. And a lot of land may average at about $350,000. Good. And then we also have parcels of land that carry much higher capital values. As a matter of fact, if we talk about, let's say, someone owning an acre of land in some spaces, that acre of land might actually be worth like $3 million. But I'm stopping at the $1 million mark, just to bring a few examples and comparisons. So at $350,000, there's an annual taxable value. In this instance, we use a 3.5% to calculate the annual taxable value. And then against that annual taxable value, the 3% tax was applied. So if you look at the table again, the annual taxable value on a parcel of land that's $350,000 in terms of its capital value is $12,250. That is not your tax. Your tax is then calculated at 3% of that, $368 per year. With the move to 2% tax pressure, it's now $245 per annum. Work that out on a monthly basis, it's $20. And as the value of the land, the vacant land, increases, so too, as we slide across, so too does your annual and your monthly tax liability increase. But even at $1 million, using the 2% tax liability rate, is $58 a month.
So
that's one lunch at KFC.
Certainly. All right, now we're gonna get more into this conversation, but we gotta go for a quick break. So viewers, please stick with us, because of course this is just information that is very important for all of us here in Tobago as we try to understand and get used to this new system and to understand what is being expected of us. So thank you, and don't go anywhere.
So wake up and hear me neighbor. 60,000 people strong.
Deltec Distributors, best deal. £3 pork, goat, chicken, turkey, B5 meats, £3 each, $300, best deal. Or you could try £5 pork, goat, chicken, turkey, B5 meats, £5 each, $500, best deal. $20 delivery. Call winner 359-5040 or 237-0102. Order online at www.deltecdistributors.com or check winner Main Road, Argyle, Tobago. Deltec Distributors, best deal. It's March Madness at Standard Distributors Limited. Get $100 back for every $1,000 you spend. Major appliance deals on Frigidaire, Hyacinth, Samsung, and more. Plus, same day financing options available. Don't miss out. Sale ends March 31st. Standard, never beaten on quality and prices. The best place to stay in Tobago is at Thorn's Place, with rates starting as low as 200 TT. Call or WhatsApp 745-7306 or 682-8676. We are located uptown Scarborough, 5 minutes away from the port. Remember, at Thorn's Place, our aim is to make your stay safe and affordable.
updates. Viewers, we are continuing to talk about property tax this morning with Miss Lois Leslie, who is an expert in the field of property management, real estate, all of these things. Right? So, I mean, we're getting into, we've had a lot of questions and we've heard a lot of the politicians, both for and against, about property tax, but right now we're having a very coherent and a very independent discussion as to what is expected of the public, especially property owners, throughout this whole thing. Now, when you get your valuations, right, of course, one of the things you might be conversing with your neighbor and be like, did you get yours yet? How much is yours? Because you want to compare. But then you might quickly realize that the valuations will be different between yourself and even your next door neighbor. What leads to these differences in the valuations?
That's a great question. And there are several reasons. First, I want to say that the notice of valuation that would have been provided by Valuation Division seeks to provide the annual rental value of the properties.
Mm-hmm.
What is interesting to note is that Valuation Division is staffed with professional valuers. And they've come up with their system of, in the first instance, establishing annual rental values on properties. But they have not gone out and inspected every single property, because think about the number of thousands of households and property owners, and think about the reality and being very realistic.
I think it was like about 400,000 properties within the country.
Yes. And so they established a system, and I won't speak for the Valuation Division, but I would say that it may be wonderful if you would have a member of the Valuation Division on set.
Certainly.
Soon to be able to speak to some of these details.
Mm-hmm.
But what I do know is, for example, there's certain key indices that they've used. They've also used GPS to identify locations and even identify a general sense of the dimensions of buildings located on properties. Because, there are a lot of things that we can do without actually stepping out. They've gone out and they've captured, like photos of properties and stuff. And from the valuation form that should have been submitted by property owners, they would have also gleaned a lot of pertinent, valuable information to do that. What does that mean? That means that within reasonable expectations, there's a room for error. There is an error band there. And so the process now of even persons responding to their notices of valuation, just like you see, a homeowner says, my assessment is $15,000 a year, but my neighbor right near to me, theirs is $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 a year. How come? Sometimes it may be because they visited your neighbor's property and was able to fully inspect your neighbor's property. So adjustments would have been made. Secondly, property is not the same everywhere you see a property.
Mm-hmm.
So you and I live right near to one another, right? But the rental value on the property that you erect is different from the one that I have erected. Because you might have an awesome, sprawling 4-bedroom house. My house may be a smaller house, half the size, 2 bedrooms.
Mm-hmm.
The quality of your construction could be very different from that of mine. My friend may have a house on a parcel of land. I'll give an example. Let's say and no derogatory. Let's say Hope. Another friend may have a property at Glen Eagles Drive, Mount Irvin. Two different qualities and types of neighborhoods. So there are several factors that come into play, first of all, to determine that monthly rental value and that annual rental value. The location of the property is one of those, the characteristics of the property, the classification. Valuation division, they've classified properties. They are what we call executive properties, they are modern properties, they are standard properties, and even among the standard properties, you have different levels of standard, depending on the features of the property. And then, of course, the dimensions of the property. So those are some of the factors that cause the values in the notices to be very different sometimes. And hence the reason why there is always recourse. If you feel that strongly that what's been assessed as your annual rental value, and then ultimately your assessment of your tax liability, if you feel that it's onerous and it's not justifiable, you do have the recourse to file objections.
And there are several ways to do that. Could you explain, what are the many ways that you can file for your objections and perhaps, get it adjusted to something that is satisfactory between you and the state?
Okay, well, first of all, when you receive your notice of valuation, if you want to file an objection, there are objection forms that are available. You contact the valuation division, and you have to provide basic information, and you have to, what will normally happen is that a valuations officer will now come to your property and do a full inspection of your property, so that any adjustments that are deemed necessary and justifiable, those adjustments are made, and your annual rental value is adjusted accordingly. If you receive your notice of assessment, and I mean, valuation in the Act, the valuation division has up to 12 months to review your objection, inspect your property, make adjustments, and then pronounce on that. If you receive your notice of assessment and you're not satisfied with it, you can simply apply to Inland Revenue at this point, because those come out of Inland Revenue. That's where the taxes is being calculated and where the taxes need to be paid. You file another objection at that point, and in the Act, you have 21 days from the receipt of that notice of assessment to file that objection. So those are the measures that you can take, and the Inland Revenue and Valuation Division will look into your objections, and then they will do the necessary investigations and then finally pronounce on it. And I also will say that even if at the end of the objection to the notice of assessment, if a homeowner or property owner is still not satisfied, then there is that property tax tribunal that's like going to the High Court.
Yes.
So that's the highest level you go, and they now will sit and pronounce judgment on your matter.
And there's also options available through the court itself.
Through the court. All right? Yes.
So there are several ways that you can take up the matter if you're not satisfied.
Yes. Yes.
And when is the tax due? How do you know when you are supposed to pay this tax?
When you receive your notice of assessment. At that point, your tax payment becomes due. Okay, and based on the legislation, you have until the end of September to pay your taxes for the particular year. Because if you don't pay your taxes, a penalty is levied as of the 1st of October. And so in this instance, the 1st of October. These may change based on the fact that the Minister of Finance has been seeking that extension.
Yes.
Okay, 6 months to object in the case of the notice of valuation. All right, so we wait for those announcements and pronouncements, but generally speaking, your tax becomes due for payment when you receive your notice of assessment. And it's important also to know that, even though you've lodged that objection, you still need to pay the taxes. If it is that you've been overtaxed, you will receive a refund.
Or a credit.
It is statute in the law, and therefore that's what's going to govern how we operate at this point in time.
So no matter what, just pay the tax, go then take it up with the court or etc.
Yes.
If you feel that that's necessary.
Yes, if you feel that's necessary. I mean, that's your right, right? And if you feel that the tax that you've been level you've been assessed at is really unfair and is unjustifiable, I mean, go diligently and seek redress, because again, that's your right, and you have to at the end of the day, it's also, well, I want to say feel comfortable, but you have several levels at which you can voice your disagreement and have reasonable and professionals address your matter to come to a final position.
And now, if you decide not to pay your tax, of course, you said that there's going to be a penalty, but at what point does that penalty turn into some more, some bigger action?
Okay, so the penalty is applied as of the 1st of October. But if on the 1st of October of the following year, your tax liability for that particular year has not been cleared, interest 15% kicks in as well. All right? And so it's not the first time. We are accustomed to that. If you don't pay your taxes, there's interest applied. It's the same principle here. However, and I am not able to say to you at this time just how much time must pass, but we must understand that the state has the right to seize your property. And I guess they will do that as last resort. I can't speak for the state, but the provision is there. So it's
not a right away decision.
No, I would not imagine so. And if I were to hear that, I personally will be very upset about that.
And that conversation becomes important in a situation in Tobago where a lot of our residents do not have land titles to their name. So perhaps on the books, there was somebody that's attached to the ownership of the land. That person might have been long dead. And what if that valuation notice comes to that person who no longer exists? Then what happens?
That's interesting. And I think that's one of the reasons why I think the extension is being sought at this point in time, because it comes back down to updating our valuation rule. That database that seeks to provide real-time information on all properties. It's going to take a while for it to be really clean, but the effort is being made certainly to raise the level of integrity of that valuation rule. However, the property tax is going to be levied against the owner, and the owner may very well be, in circumstances, the occupier. All right? So at the end of the day, what the structures are put in place so that a tax is paid against every property. All right? So whoever has control of it, whoever has built on it, whoever it's in their purview, there's a liability to the state to pay the tax that relates to this particular property, whether it's vacant land or whether it's land with a building or buildings on it.
And then, in cases where, again, in the Tobago space, where you might have a property of land and it's a family land and you have siblings building on that, on just several corners of the land and so on, how is all of that being worked out?
Yeah, so, and again, that's why I say to you, have someone from Valuation Division. I don't want to speak for Valuation Division, right? But I will say that a lot of information can be obtained from them. And in Tobago, it's a phone call to 639-2970. or pay a visitor valuation division. But the thing is, if you occupying a space, then you have a liability with respect to the space that you're occupying. Right? And then you may want to ask me, what about persons who can't afford to pay their taxes? And there is consideration for such folks. And first of all, I would say that there are situations, organizations like churches and so on, where property tax is exempted. Again, because of their role within the economy from a socio-economic standpoint. But there are also folks who, for one reason or another, are unable to find it difficult to pay their property taxes, whether because of their income levels. You may have inherited family property. You inherit a house, you're unemployed, but your parents died, left you a house. You have to maintain it because you're living in it. And if you know, there are times when we see folks in properties like these, and the properties are not well maintained because of their financial circumstances. There is a facility that allows such persons to apply for what we call deferrals.
So they still will have to pay the taxes at some point.
At the initial stages, I would imagine that when your first notice of assessment comes out, there is an expectation that you pay that tax. You meet that liability by the deadline date. However, it's important that such persons immediately request a deferral from Inland Revenue, because what you have to do is to provide valid proof that either you're a senior citizen with a pension that doesn't support that kind of an expense, or your general circumstances are such, ill health and other reasons. So you have to make a case and provide substantiating documentation, not just simply say, I can't afford it. And that your matter would be investigated, and then you will be provided with some sort of a deferral.
All right. Well, we're going to take a pause right there because we're not done with this conversation. So if you guys please don't go anywhere, we'll be back after this break.
It's a brand new morning, rise up.
At JK Tech, we bring technology to your doorstep. From cutting-edge laptops to reliable printers, we've got it all. Nationwide delivery and a new website for easy online ordering. JK Tech is your one-stop shop for your electronics and computer needs. Carrying top brands such as Acer, Samsung, HP, and much more. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at JKTechTT or visit jktechtt.com. Quality tech is just a click away. JK Tech. Evaluate your shopping experience, your tech, your way. Call or WhatsApp 383-2651. Shop smart, shop JK Tech.
Deltec Distributors, best deal. 3 pounds pork, goat, chicken, turkey, beef, 5 meats, 3 pounds each, $300. Best deal. Or you could try 5 pounds pork, goat, chicken, turkey, beef, 5 meats, 5 pounds each, $500. Best deal. $20 delivery. Call me now 359-5040 or 237-0102. Order online at www.deltecdistributors.com or check with us. Main Road, Argyle, Tobago. Deltec Distributors, best deal. It's March Madness at Standard Distributors Limited. Get $100 back for every $1,000 you spend. Major appliance deals on Frigidaire, Hyacinth, Samsung, and more. Plus, same-day financing options available. Don't miss out. Sale ends March 31st. Standard, never beaten on quality and prices. Scrub Ties brings to you our organic fat dissolving shots. Yes, guys, our lemon butter shot breaks down stubborn fat, tightens any loose skin while increasing your metabolism. No side effects, no downtime. We also offer cavitation, cellulite treatment, butt, breast, hip dip fillers, weight loss, fertility IVs, and much more. Contact us on 495-6624 or follow us on Instagram at Scrub Ties Body Contouring.
welcome back to Good Morning Tobago on Tobago Updates. Viewers, we are continuing to chat this morning on property tax and just some of the things that you should be aware of as the public. And of course, I'm chatting with Mr. Lois Leslie, who is a property expert. So in short, but okay, so what are some of the objections that can be made for the property tax? Guys, can you explain that a little bit more?
Okay, I'd be happy to. So I said before, there's an objection form that needs to be filled in and submitted to the Division of Valuation Division. Once you receive your notice of valuation and you are in absolute disagreement with what you see there, all right? But there are several grounds under which you can make your objections, all right? One of them is that you, of course, you think the values, the assessment is too high, which I suspect is maybe the majority of what we will see happening right now. It could be that you think it's too low. Hardly likely, but those are grounds of objection. Sometimes if you feel that you've received a notice of valuation for a property that is land and buildings, however, for some reason you think that some parts of the land was assessed with your as your liability when you feel it should not be, it should be separate. It comes back to even the question you asked about family, people living on family land and you occupy in various spaces, and they may feel that, okay, this comes, but this is the whole thing, but I don't occupy this whole thing. So I'm filing an objection now asking you to review this because my responsibility ends at the borders of my occupation. So those are some scenarios, all right? Then you may have lands that you think should, let's say you have 2 parcels of land maybe adjoining, you feel should be included in just one valuation assessment, tax liability wise. That's another ground for objection, all right? You mentioned one before. The notice comes with your name on it. You don't occupy that property. You're not the owner of that property. Sometimes it's a genuine mistake. It's a mistake. And sometimes the history of the property in terms of occupation and ownership, dictates that. If there's an error there, that's a ground for an objection to have that rectified because you really don't want to be carrying a tax liability when it's really not yours to carry. And if you think your annual rental value is incorrect, that's another ground for objection, all right? So there are several, and if you are able to get your hands on the objection form, at the back of the form, it lists about 10 grounds for objections. All right? But those are the more common ones that you feel most homeowners will really be focusing on because, that's what will apply to them in most instances.
And, as we're talking about property tax and so on, if we have not, as we said at the beginning of the conversation, we have not paid property tax since 2009, but it is something that is expected of you no matter where you live in the world. But talk to us a little bit about, just getting that back into our psyche about the need to pay property tax and why is it so important? Why is it such an important source of revenue for the country and so on?
Okay. Property tax in jurisdictions provide as much as 10, sometimes 20% of the GDP. That means government's activity in terms of providing public services, a lot of it is financed through property tax. In our space, we expect that folks will say, I paying property tax, but my roads ain't good. I paying property tax, I can't get water. So the revenue earned from levying property taxes is intended to support the efforts to ensure our infrastructure is well developed. More and more infrastructure demands now in 2024 are different from those of 2009. We're in a different age where the information age, the technological era, and so infrastructure is more complex. It's certainly more robust, but it's more expensive to afford and to maintain. All right. So hence the reason. And so I think, first of all, there has to be an acceptance. We cannot get away from paying property tax. It was suspended in 2009, and it's 2009, 2024.
And it was
how many years?
That's about 15 years.
In 2024. Yeah. Right? So it's coming. Well, it's here, really. And so what we have to do is to plan for it. Plan for it by, first of all, being comfortable that what's being assessed as your tax liability should really be a tax liability. And therefore, it allows you now to plan how best to pay your property tax. Is it on a monthly basis or a semi-annual basis or one lump sum payment? You know, there are territories that actually provide incentives if you make a one lump sum payment for your property tax. All right? And so we just have to understand, I don't even want to say it's a necessary evil, because I don't want to use the connotation of the word evil, right? One thing we do, the intent here today is to bring information.
Right.
Right? We're not coloring this with any other agendas. Excuse me. But it's a necessary. African states, even small African states, pay property tax. If you go up through the Caribbean, some Caribbean countries, the tax is 10%. And not 10% of the annual rental value, no. 10% of the market value, capital value, right? So we just need to get in line. It's going to be an adjustment. And I know it's hard for most people in the beginning, just like everything else. It's the dynamics of change. And of course, it's a change that's causing, it has a negative impact on your available cash resources to do what you want.
Yes.
But think about the benefits that will redound to you and the society as a whole. And I think what we have to do is to take to task our administrations in terms of how they use our property tax.
Yes, and I know that's been a concern in terms of, especially here in Tobago, because we've heard a lot from the conversation, because the property tax conversation at the central government level has been tagged with the Municipal Corporations Act and the changes that they made in there. And the conversation has been the property tax would be able to fund the municipal corporations throughout Trinidad, but it also means that the property tax collected in Tobago is going to go back to the THA. And there's been that assurance from the Minister of Finance that whatever property tax is collected in Tobago will not leave Tobago. So it will remain with the THA. So then it's up to us, the public, then to be able to hold them to account. So it could mean that the Division of Infrastructure, who does the maintenance of roads and so on, and of course we know that roads are such a tricky subject here in Tobago. I mean, maybe they because they have been complaining that they don't have enough money to do certain things. Maybe that's how they can improve what they're doing. So it's of course left to be seen, but you know, this is how it's supposed to work.
Absolutely.
So
that is definitely how it's supposed to work. You know, is your tax dollars working for you? All right.
Right.
And so, like I said, we have to get there. It will get easier as we go through the process. After a couple of years, it will not seem so onerous. It will also get easier after this first slew of objections. And what that will allow for is that the valuation division will now be able to come out, inspect properties, update the valuation rules,
and work out the kinks.
Clean up, work out the kinks. So there's a period when, you know, when you build a house, you say, talk about teething problems. For a little while, sometimes you go in the bathroom one morning, the heater ain't working, or even after a while you see cracks because there's earth settling. It's that period after the end of any project, anything that you do where you may have challenges and you work them out. The important thing is that our administrations move strongly to iron out the kinks, smoothen the process, and even go to the place where paying of taxes become easier. Again, we're working on the phone, we're working on the laptop, you pay online. Just make the process easier so that it relieves some of the stress of just having to pay the property tax.
Certainly. All right. I want to thank you so much, Ms. Leslie. We are out of time. We're actually over time right now, but that's fine. There was a lot of very good information. And viewers, if you tune in late, just always go back on the Facebook, YouTube pages, or on the website, and you can see this conversation in its entirety, and you can have for yourself the information from an independent source. Right?
Yes.
So that's what we're hoping to do.
And
more information in our way.
Yes.
So thank you again, Ms. Leslie, and viewers, hope you have a safe and wonderful day, and we will see you again tomorrow.
This is never wrong. We are beauty, we are power. We are people in the sun. We are beaches, we are rivers. We are melanated ones. We special and there is no denying. Tobago is number one.
You're viewing Tobago Updates Television, your exclusive gateway to Tobago, broadcasting the beauty of this island paradise to the world.